outside of finance, it's like the highest frequency, highest dollar value marketplace that just still is like barbaric in the fees that are taken. And everyone's just like, I'll have a bit and I'll have a bit and I'll have a bit. And no one's sharing information. So like there isn't just like one place that you come to buy an ad unless you go to Google or you go to Meta. And there's this like now this huge spread between, okay, we sold it at 40, we paid out at $1.
Welcome to The Local, where Marcus and I chat normally, and sometimes we have guests in. Today we've got Ben from Alchemy. Can you say hi, Ben?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's been great. Will be great. Sorry.
It's through the end of a drink.
Yeah. It will be great, yeah.
Definitely not recording this last.
Have you always been a builder? Like, have you always worked in small companies and been an entrepreneur, or...?
My degree actually at university was product design. Okay. So like I built like physical stuff.
Like what?
For my final year project, you had to just spend the whole year building one thing. And I built a biogas generator. So you put shit in the top and it created methane, and then you could like burn that methane to cook, basically.
Not very good for the environment.
Not amazing for the environment, no worse than a cow. And just like, it was just an interesting experiment, basically. Yeah. And then fell out. I graduated from university, didn't have a clue what to do. A guy I played rugby with was like, do you want to come and work at an ad tech company? I was like, I don't know what that is, but I'm working in a Lock Fine restaurant as a waiter, so anything's up from here.
Good brand though.
It was a good brand.
I think it's one of those ones that's fallen off.
Sadly, yeah. It was good. It was good times anyway. But and there was like 4 of us in an office, and I just like liked the exposure that I got. And then I moved to another startup, slightly bigger. It was bigger in the US, but it was a small team in the UK. So I just liked how quickly you could move stuff along, and you kind of see how what you were doing was like turning the other cogs rather than just like seeing yourself spinning here. Yeah. That company eventually just closed their UK office, but kind of got a bad smell and had moved to what I thought was another startup, which was a influencer marketing agency. Because I was like, I understand the supply side. I want to get the buy side, so I can like have both things together. But it was just a sales division in News UK. And when I asked, can I have the native Slack app on my laptop? And they said, you need to have 8 approvals.
8 sign-offs.
Yeah.
8 sign-offs.
And I was like, I promise you I won't look at any porn. And this guy was like 17, and he was like, I was like, I'll buy you a beer. He's like, I can't even go to the pub. I'm like, fuck this place. And then the pandemic hit. It was like a nice time for me to like, no sales again this week. I'm so sorry, guys. Like back to doing Alchemy. And then we kicked it off for nearly 5 years ago now. And
wow,
haven't plugged away at it ever since, basically.
And for those that don't know, explain what Alchemy is and how it generates revenue and what the current setup is and how it looks into the future.
So we are a marketplace. Effectively, we match buyers with sellers, and our buyers are people that want to sell things, and our sellers are people that have attention that they can sell that hopefully elicits whatever action that person wants to do.
Yeah.
It's auctions that happen in real time. It's predominantly across websites, apps, TVs, and the existing marketplace charges inordinate fees. We don't. We're kind of single-digit fees that we take, which effectively those fees are used to buy back the token to create a pool of liquidity, which ultimately funds this zero-day payments that sit on the underneath. So it was, blockchains were really interesting to us because they solve for transparency, so people can actually see what's happening.
Instant settlement.
And like you can attach the data to the value through the same infrastructure, which hadn't really happened before. Like you bid in real time, there is an auction, you buy that particular ad unit. The difference is that whilst the ad units themselves are fungible, so like it's the same size ad unit on publisher A, B, or C, a cookie or any identifier just is this crazy coefficient that can mean page 1 on CNN is worth $1 for 1,000, but page 2 is worth $8 for 1,000, and that is just like difficult to flatten out. So you have like, the way I guess I think about it is like you have an option to buy an ad impression that expires as soon as the person leaves the page. So whilst there is a ton of inventory, you can't like buy options against future ad impressions necessarily, because it's a completely different auction every time. And the price could be from 1 cent to $10. And there's really no way of predicting what that price will be.
Has nobody tried to build a model to do that?
I always have, I'm like, how the fuck do we make a market maker for buying and selling ads? And
it sounds like you got a lot of data.
we have a lot of data, and like the way that this is kind of one of the products that we have, we call it AdFi. So like rather than looking at it at the impression level, we look at it over the entire period by which you would pay for an ad campaign. So let's say we work with Coca-Cola, they buy ads from us, they pay us 60 days, if we're lucky, after the end of the campaign. So like we front that gap, and then we have 60 days to then pay whoever we've bought the ads from. So like from the time they've bought the ad impression, we might not pay them. You buy it in H1, you pay for it in H2. Like that's shit for the guys that are waiting to get paid. So you can, in bringing an ad exchange on chain, you suddenly have this mechanism to cross between like data and value. So you can say, right, okay, we have a pool of liquidity. You can draw down from that whenever you want to. Could be end of billing period plus 1 day, 2 day, 5 days, 10 days. And we can just pay you out, retain the fee. So like you effectively are selling a 10% discount or 5%, whatever the fee may be, option on an ad impression that we know if we buy and sell it, we get a discount should they draw down at a time that's shorter than the prescribed payment terms. And that's kind of been our approach to like market making ad inventory, which is just like an iteration on invoice factoring, really, bringing it on chain and applying it to a marketplace that has billions of transactions every month or day.
Well, that's fascinating.
It's cool. It's an interesting problem to get your head around.
The first proper crypto HFT that I worked in, all of the engineers had come from AdTech. And they all came over and they went, we know how this works. Like we know disparate marketplaces and we know how to get the information between them. And the fact that they were just applying that to a new asset class at the time was almost an irrelevance. They were just like, we know how to move this information around and get it done.
It's like one of the, outside of finance, it's like the highest frequency, highest dollar value marketplace that just still is like barbaric in the fees that are taken. Like it's like you can pull up public records from large SSPs and it's like 45 to 90% people are clipping off the
It's like crypto back in 2013.
Like it's just good spreads, right? If you're in that game, great spreads, right?
So I'm surprised, because normally you would see that these markets get more efficient over time.
Particularly when they're electronic based as well.
Particularly if you look at the spreads have gone down to if you were going to buy and sell shares from a broker in the 1960s or 70s compared to what it's like now, where basically it's one tick wide always.
And no fees from your broker.
And exactly.
There's no incentive. Like the guys that cleaned up, like the biggest companies in the world, like Google, Meta, Amazon, probably OpenAI. Now they make money from ads. They're ad tech companies, and they had a bunch of attention, and they were like owned the entire marketplace. So like they could run their own auction and make all the money they wanted, right? But there's a bunch of attention that lives outside of that, and there is just, you're dealing with some publishers that like start off printing a newspaper and then they're like the internet. They're like, oh shit. They like didn't become a technology company overnight. So every publisher has like this weird idiosyncratic setup on what they've named their ad units and how they set it up in their ad server and the prices they're willing to pay and the deals they've done.
There's been no futures contract defined yet.
And it's just so fragmented. Then you're dealing with media agencies who, again, like there's like, the people that should get this, like the brand who needs to spend the money to acquire customers, and a channel like TV, the internet, radio, whatever, they're the people that should take the value. But then you have a media agency, you have a buying platform, you have an exchange, you have a supply side platform, you have the channel itself. And then you have someone that's like, we are providing verification, or we are providing attention, or we are providing a way for you to track if it's actually converted. And everyone's just like, I'll have a bit, and I'll have a bit, and I'll have a bit. And no one's sharing information. So like there isn't just like one place that you come to buy an ad, unless you go to Google or go to Meta, but they own the marketplace and they charge what they want largely. Like you can kind of see it in something like YouTube, and I don't know if this is true or not, this is just my best guess, but like you have to get to a certain threshold on YouTube before they'll even monetize your channel.
I mean, they're very closely guarded secrets how their algorithms and data and how they serve the stuff works, right?
But kind of like circling it, I can like piece it together. And I suspect they're selling it based on the screen that it's on. So if you're buying CTV ads, so connected TV ads like ITV, Channel 4 or YouTube, it commands a high CPM. It could be like $20 to $45. But like, I bet if you go into your creator account, your average CPM is like $1 to $3. You're just happy that you're famous for doing keepy ups in your back garden. Yeah. Now you've launched an energy drink and you got a box at the Arsenal, right? You're like, this is great. And there's this like now this huge spread between, okay, we sold it at 40, we paid out at $1.
And that's why we can spend 180 billion capex on.
Yeah, that's why we're going to build a nuclear reactor to power AI algorithms, right? So it's a good business model for sure. And like they're just, and again with,
I'm surprised that so I was out with some of my friends who work in TradFi, mid-frequency research. So guys who are trading stocks and futures and whatnot, but over longer horizons.
Yeah.
And they were talking about how expensive these alternate data sets are that they're buying for, like stuff like the credit card data from what people are sending. I'm surprised that Google and Facebook and whatnot have not span out. They must have such a predictive data set there of where buying trends and are going that must be affecting the underlying stock prices.
Yep.
I'm surprised
what are people looking at?
I'm surprised that it must be so valuable, the data, to just clip the 50% spread that you don't even need to worry about trading the market around that as well.
I've always thought it's probably too challenging from like a compute standpoint to convert like a wave, so like you speaking, into something binary that a computer can understand. I think people, so like if you're, and you're on your phone and you're like, I was just talking about that and now I've seen an ad for that thing I was talking about. Like you probably Googled it in between thinking about it and talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I believe this conspiracy theory about it listening and stuff.
I
Definitely. I've had that experience.
No, but I think sometimes it's just like you've actually like Googled it and that's why you're talking about it.
Yeah, and then if you're using single sign-ons, right, with Google, so it's logged into everything.
Yeah, maybe.
And then it's tied to your email address.
It's not too much compute though to convert the voice into.
You don't think so?
No. Not at all. Well. That's true. That's true. No, that's trivial. I think in terms of compute power to do that.
But it is now. I mean, you can
look at Shazam, man.
You can talk.
True. Yeah, true.
But I mean,
talk to Claude.
I don't think so. I actually just think the.
You don't think they've done that?
I think.
I'm convinced that.
I don't know. Maybe I'm too optimistic, but I think sort of the regulation, the backdoors that you'd have to put in, I just kind of think actually. Would they deal with the blowback?
I think some of the apps that have come out of the...
No, because it has to be on the native platform. Because obviously if it's an app that wants access to do it, you've kind of got to go, I'll give you access to my microphone. It's got to be done underhand by the OS itself, right? So it's got to be like when iOS installs and it doesn't give you the option, I'm listening. Now, obviously... They tell you about how they do it, right? For Hey Siri and all this kind of shit, where it's like wakes up every 500, 50 milliseconds or whatever it is. I don't know. If it wakes up and it works out if you're saying it, and then it shuts itself down.
Yeah,
that's how they do it. I don't think they're recording it, but
I mean, there's a bunch of apps on different platform, but I have to go in and after install them, switch off the microphone access.
Yeah, but that's because you've got Chinese hacker phone. That's why.
Yeah, Android.
Yeah. Beautiful Tim Apple wouldn't do that to me.
Yeah. But if you install WhatsApp, you get microphone access. If you were to use Google, if you can use so you're on a Google Hangout, I'm sure they take that. Yes, you can access my microphone.
They are absolutely
and it's all spread out.
So, I mean, people say, why did Facebook end up buying WhatsApp? It's like not monetized and blah blah blah, and they spent 20 billion quid on it and they've never made a penny for it. In fact, it cost them to run it. Yeah, but you've now got how much corpus of private conversations to train your neural networks on?
Yeah, exactly.
Even though it's all encrypted, you can even train the neural network on encrypted data, right? It can still learn the structures.
Yeah, true.
It doesn't have to maybe you map it back to encrypted data until such of a time that you don't have to have it encrypted. But I mean,
that was an insane acquisition at the time, wasn't it?
They paid 20 billion for WhatsApp. They only paid 1 billion for Instagram.
Yeah, that was killer, wasn't it? Probably only topped by YouTube when they bought YouTube like that.
Yeah, but that was a long time ago. And YouTube probably wouldn't have been, because it got by Google, right? Probably wouldn't have been what it was without the backing of
I would agree.
amount of compute
and distribution as well.
Yeah, the distribution and the amount of compute and whatnot that you need to
just storage, right? All that.
It's absolutely bonkers that the amount of data that they're serving. Like 4K video that hundreds of millions of people are watching in real time live. The engineering scale required to do that and the compute required to do that is bonkers. So
and wouldn't have been done natively by a team that small.
I don't think so. Whereas Instagram, I mean, maybe it's just photos.
Yeah.
I mean, WhatsApp was 500 lines of code.
Really? Damn it. Only 500 lines of code away.
Yeah.
My own plane. Yeah. Reinvent WhatsApp. Done.
I love it though when you kind of, I always get shocked by the market when, I remember, say, Telegram getting launched, getting big. And I'm thinking, but it's just chat.
What's different?
What's different here? Yeah. And yet it is different. And I can't quite put my finger on why it's different. Okay, maybe it's like richer and groups and blah, blah, blah. But if you'd have come to me in 2015 or whatever and been like, I'm going to launch a chat app.
Another one. Missed the boat, mate.
Yeah. I think that's been done.
Google launched one and shut one down.
Yeah. So it's interesting how like apps can win.
Yeah. What's that, community power? There's a certain group. I mean, Telegram's always been very, very crypto native, isn't it? And it had that encrypted angle to it, whereas at the time I don't think
Signal, was the other one. And I mean, I'm not
Wicker was one as well.
I'm not zoomer enough to understand why Discord is one. Like, I'm not into gaming enough to
streaming
know.
I think
is it all streaming?
I think people can live stream basically, and then you can
inside. But is that relatively new though? It was just like, wasn't it just team chat for your clan when you were gaming COD basically?
Yeah, and you can. I think like you can build. It's like the developer portal is pretty cool. Like, I think that's why I like Telegram is that you can like make a bot and it does something cool. And you're like, oh, this is pretty sweet actually.
The customizable.
World.
Yeah, like I was messing around with like trying to. On Sui and DeFi, there's a lot of incentives on their dexes, and I was like, if you could just sit at like plus or minus 0.2% the entire time, you'd clean up. Because you don't have the issue with constantly rebalancing on Sui because the gas fees are so low, which would like pretty make it a write-off basically on ETH or similar. And I ended up.
What if you get all the flow one way and then you've got massive risk?
Yeah, true. But like,
so this is what we deal with as a market the whole time. It's like we can build the technology to be either side of a fair value all the time, quite consistently. The hard thing is. Two hard things. One, when do you not want to be present? So, and how quickly can you get that order out of the way? Yeah. And then the flip side of that coin is when you do get hit on an order that you didn't necessarily want to be filled on, what do you do as you pick up that inventory?
Yeah.
Because
can you get out?
Yeah, because if the price is going in one direction, you're then going to have to, at some point, risk-wise, flatten off at a higher price and you lock in a big, horrible, nasty loss.
Yeah.
So you've got to set your spreads so that the compensation that you get for being the 2 basis points or whatever either side is enough to offset the times when you will just get cleaned out. And it's not an easy problem to solve.
It's a balancing act between spread and risk.
Yeah. But just like I got it to work for a short period of time, right? And you'll be like, well done. Like, the amateur over here. But it was like...
picking up pennies in front of the steamroller.
Yeah, like tens of thousands of % of APY basically. It was working out. And I was like, I don't really see how I can lose if I get in all this and I just sell it. Do you know what I mean? It's something that is reasonably liquid at my sort of scale, which could be like, okay, I'll try it out with $500 each side. And if that ends up being 1,000, like better chances of that than me trying to guess the score of the Arsenal at the weekend. You know? and it was just a fun thing to play around with. Yeah, 1-0 from a corner or maybe a penalty. If my mate Nicholas has got anything to do with it. But it was more like, can I build it? Can I understand? Like, can I interact with a smart contract?
So where were you were quoting on what?
There was just one pool that I found. It was on Cetus. I think it was. I forget the token, but like the API anyway was like 200%. I was like, cool. The leverage is going to go up if I keep it tight. I was doing that whilst on a ski holiday, just with Claude Code. I was like, this is pretty cool. And that's what I've enjoyed about it.
I know what you're going to say. It's the freedom to be able to try something out.
Yeah.
That's what's great about it. That's what's great about DeFi. Yeah. Because all of this is like, because all of this is completely closed off from you before crypto.
Yeah.
Right? Like, unless you, maybe if you wanted to go through the pain of setting up an interactive brokerage account and dealing with their terminal and API, you could maybe as a retail user get a handle on some sort of algorithmic execution, but the fees, it's massive pain in the ass.
Yeah.
DeFi has brought the cost of trying this kind of shit out, and the barrier to entry so far down.
And then even more so, like I found this guy on Twitter that had built a like complete Sui skill, and I was like messing around with this. We do this anyway, but I wanted to see if I could do it myself and see if Nicholas was up to the task. And I was like, hey, just build a version of our Ads Explorer, and I didn't expect him to do this, but he created himself a wallet. He went to the Sui faucet to get Sui DevNet tokens. He compiled a smart contract, wrote that smart contract onto the DevNet with a transaction. And I did it, called my CTO. I was like, fuck, I think I've done something stupid here. He's like, no, it's on the DevNet. You're totally fine. And I was like, fucking hell, Nicholas, don't do that. I tell you to. It could have been bad. But even just going through the process of that now, it's like, okay, now I know I can do it. I'd be much more considered about the next time I did it. But like the barrier to entry for me doing that now is basically, can I think of the idea to do it? Which is so cool.
That's why I thought you were going to go down when you said about DeFi and the barriers to entry. For me, it's all the side projects that have been knocking around in my head for the last 10 years suddenly become a 2-paragraph prompt to something. And yes, it might come to something great or it might die, but at least it gets out and gets done as opposed to sitting on a to-do list. I think is amazing.
It's just relaxing more than anything. Like if you think, because you guys are the same, right? Like you're running a startup that you're always like, fuck, I need to do more work. And like, I should have done that thing. Why haven't I done that thing? That's so annoying that I haven't done that. And now at least I can try it. Like, oh, that was a shit idea. I don't have to buzz around in my head. I just get rid of that. And just like the volume of work I've been able to get through in the last 3 weeks that I've been messing around with this is like, I've never experienced anything like it. It's just like you're moving in like warp speed, basically. It's kind of the way I describe it.
We were quite funny because this time last year we were, as an engineering team, rightfully so, reasonably dismissive. Yeah. Because
we were using the chat bit. There was no agents really per se. That we were using the chat based stuff as a sort of Stack Overflow.
Right. It was more a query.
It's like query.
But there were
this is a compiler error. Remind me what the docs say about this.
Regular hallucinations, regular frustrations with it, and no desire within the business to put it anywhere near production hot path trading code. That I think is changing rapidly.
It still fucks it up though.
So you still need to be able to query it and question what it's done, but the scaffolding
it's really good for those like shit tasks that you don't want to do, where you're like, oh, there's a little bit of code that does this and I need it to do something like that in this different place, like we want to
changing a timestamp.
Something like that. These kind of like shit kind of things that you want to do, or even a bit more complicated than that, where you're like, oh, it's followed the pattern that's in this file on these lines, but it needs to be applied to this service and make sure it's like really good for the shit like that. And
or analysis.
Or for research. So I'm not massively impressed with how it writes in the production hot path code. I think it can get
it's a bit of a boast.
A bit of a boast, and it's sometimes not very good at like seeing where its blind spots are and stuff. But in terms of like research, in terms of like, as you say, like I've got 8 different ideas I want to try out, and my job before I was doing this, I was a quant researcher, right? I'd go and write code that would go and get the data and shape the data and build the regression model and look at the results and then tweak and blah 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 blah. The speed at which you can do that now, where you don't really even have to know if it's writing the incorrect, like the code doesn't need to be that good anyway, because it's just Python, but also like you can tell by the results that it's giving you, it's like, well, I want to make sure that you've not done X mistake there or Y mistake there, or like these results don't look right for, you still need the judgment to determine like, well, no, obviously it's not a sharp 200 strategy, you've made a mistake somewhere. And then he goes, oh yes, you're right. I forgot to divide by square.
You are really clever. Well done.
Yeah.
But all of that data mining and alignment and all that sort of stuff.
Bullshit shit is done. Yeah. And then it writes it all properly in a pipeline file. So then the next time you boot it up, you're like, okay, I've got my pipeline there.
And nice plotting, which for me was always the pain. Like always spending hours in Stack Overflow. Why can't I get this line on this graph to the right way? Just do it now.
Yeah.
Didn't he sell it? Did he sell it for over $1 billion or something?
I thought he's gone to get a job at OpenAI, because that's one point
he did. Yeah, got a job at OpenAI. Yeah, I don't know if you saw he did like a handshake photo with Sam Altman, and someone posted above it, if you're fans of the US office, when Michael Scott's got the long hair and he stood next to Will Ferrell. It was like the exact same photo. I was like, that's too good. It just remains undefeated on that. But I think it's like just listening to the way that you guys talk about it. I think it's. I was just thinking, like, does me not understanding code in the way that you guys do give me an advantage or a disadvantage in like how quickly I might adopt it over you guys would, and then at what point does that totally fuck me over? And which point?
I think there are a lot of. I think there was a little quad thing that got shared on Twitter where it was like, has bad judgment, doesn't use AI, like waste of space. Has great judgment, doesn't use AI, steady hand. Has bad judgment, uses AI, slop cannons.
Yeah.
and then
the 10x.
10x is like, has good judgment and uses AI, it's turbo brains. So I think as long as you've got good judgment and you can tell when something's wrong, then I think it's like fine to prototype and build stuff. Would I be pushing to prod, running real money?
I think that's true.
Or pushing out to users where I'm not fully au fait what the security risks are.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty. A lot of people would be pretty scared, I think, if they failed to ban on their computer and saw how often the amount of logon attempts from random IP addresses in the world are trying to get on your machine.
Yeah.
And that's what it's like all the time, right? And so there's just a sea of sharks out there.
Yeah.
And I think if you're pushing something out for users to use, and you don't understand how security works properly and what API keys are and all this kind of stuff, I'd be a bit worried about that.
Well, we've seen examples of that. I mean, early as Claude Code was becoming a thing, we saw a big example in the States where someone vibe coded a dating app that was aiming towards women being a safe environment for them to explore dating opportunities, etc., etc. But the database was completely open on the back end. So this safe environment for women, suddenly all their details were leaked out.
Now, of course, it will get better at this kind of stuff, and they will build guardrails in, so she might not even have to tell it to be secure in the future and whatnot. Like, that's what they've launched a security version now. So it will get better at that kind of stuff. But I don't know. For me, at the moment, given I regularly come up with it, making mistakes and hallucinating, and the amount of times it goes, oh yes, you're right, as you say.
Yes, I knew
it. I would be worried. But like prototyping, the problem is, I think it's what we said before, right? It's the end of junior work. I was the same guys I was out with the other week. Do you have any junior quants anymore? No, we don't need any junior quants anymore.
I think that's that part of me agrees and part of me disagrees, because I think that there's no junior work for what we imagine that to be today.
What we perceive it to be.
But I think you will have this in the same way that I do not understand TikTok. I just don't get it, but other people do and make loads of money. Okay, got it. Right. Totally. See you in a bit. I'm going to do some dance moves.
That's your impression of it, but that's clearly not, right?
But I think you'll have
it's grown out much more than it was, right? It's now just another video media content source.
But you'll have this whole group of people that have didn't know how to code before, and I kind of put myself in this bucket a little bit. I could not code. So I couldn't have the same kind of technical conversations that I can now have with our developers. It translates my ideas in something that is something they understand. But you'll have people that have learned to do this natively using Claude or
so in a bit where we're digital natives. Tim excluded, sorry. But we're digital natives. You're going to get this generation of people who are AI natives.
Exactly that, and they'll just think of problems in a completely different way, and then they will be the junior developers, but they will just be the equivalent of what senior developers are today. And that's
it's just a big productivity boost.
I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's what I say to my developers. Like, if you're either here and you're really experienced and you can apply your systems-based thinking and your expertise using these tools to be great today. But if you're in like this half of the bell curve, forget everything, learn how to use these tools intuitively, and you will just zip back through it to the point where you can work with experienced developers because you've been able to, you haven't had to learn the foundation of Python. You've been able to learn it like vocationally as like an apprenticeship, which is just.
But when you're using them, how much of the code you actually? It makes you not check the code, right?
But do you need to if it works?
If you might do it at the moment now, but I just don't think you will in 6 months' time.
What, do you think it's like the next iteration of a higher level language? So we had assembly, then we had C, then we had Python and whatnot, and now you've kind of got one level up.
Quality prompting.
Yeah, it's just
natural language.
Yeah, it's just full natural language to build stuff, and it's not as fast. And it might be a bit more verbose. And it might not be as much efficient. Yeah, exactly. Right. And for some, and it's a bit like now, right? For some purposes and some tasks, it's fine to use Python. It's fine to use the highest level language, but that doesn't mean there are no tasks that are suited to C++. Doesn't mean there are no tasks that are suited to actually getting down to the metal. If you want to run something on a chip that's tiny, that's in a fridge or whatever, there are all these different constraints on it. So maybe if you're just serving people a web app. It doesn't really matter.
You don't give a shit, do you?
Maybe we'd
until they spend $50 million worth of AWS credits.
Like, oh, fuck.
Jeff's got an even bigger yacht.
Yeah. Damn it.
That's not what he spends his money on. But maybe it's to those cobalt engineers that you were talking about at the beginning of the chat, the ones that get paid a huge amount on a day rate to be able to go and run bank applications and stuff. Maybe actually knowing Python in like 20 years' time, so you could like peel back the layers and go, what is this actually doing?
That was a big thing, wasn't it? I saw at least on my Twitter that was like, engineers are loving this because it's like there's going to be so much slop.
True.
Yeah. Well, we think that, but as they get better, they'll just go in and refactor it to be better, and
how much better are they going to get?
I don't know.
Because it's where you believe we are, because there's no such thing as exponential growth. There's only sigmoid growth, right? Which looks like it's exponential until it's not.
Yeah.
And so where are we on that? Are we here? Are we here? I mean, there's a lot of discussion about, if you just throw more compute at it, will it get better?
I'm amazed where we are now versus maybe 2 years ago or 18 months ago.
It's also a massive echo chamber, isn't it?
Yeah, that is true.
I think most people in the normie sphere are like, ChatGTP, I've heard of that.
Yeah, my wife says ChatGPT. I'm not sure. Actually, there's a graphic. I'm not sure if you've seen it, which is all the people in the world, and there's like dots of 3.2 million.
I saw the exact same thing.
And it was like
we're only watching. All of us are looking at one Twitter feed, I think.
Yeah, like 0.04% of people are using coding scaffolds in any kind of LLM tool, but. If I go on Twitter, I'm like, I'm an idiot. What the hell? Like, everyone is doing this. What is going on? Yeah. But actually, it's not. And we've been Claude users for a while, but just like recently, our token usage has spiked, and I think that they must look not for like total amount of tokens used, but like the volatility in your token usage. Like if it spikes, they're like, these guys have figured something out. We should speak to them. And they did talk to us all of a sudden, and they were like, "Oh, the way you're thinking about doing this is quite interesting." So, like, it was cool to get the validation from the guys writing the book that our approach to it was quite interesting. Yeah, we're their customers, their GTM guy, and he's a sales guy. He's like, "Do you think you're going to spend more tokens?" I'm like, "If it gives me more time with you and that massive $30 billion round that you've just raised," they're like, "Hell yeah. We're going to use way more tokens, mate. Obviously."
Do you want to do Claude ad tech?
Yeah, literally. Yeah. So it was like, because I've been saying to the team, like, just use it. Just like, I don't care. Just like most of what you do is not too dangerous. Yeah. Like if you're using it to make a sales deck, like it's probably better than what you're doing anyway. We're going to make spelling mistakes. I've seen you make spelling mistakes. They might have a logo that's out of place, but like, I'd rather you learn to use it in a way that other businesses aren't, because just like that velocity in market is like, I don't see how big companies will shrink into automation and it still feels like a cool place to work. Because I was out with a friend of mine, he works at a bank, and he's just like, I'm just picking people to get rid of because we've been automating work And okay, so like you're just restructuring your organization for how you think you might use it. But in that 4-week period, there's been 2 new models, which you're probably not testing to their full capacity. Whereas you have, if you're a small company, it's like the ultimate leverage to punch well above your weight if you're prepared to just like run head on at it and just like, how can we use it more? How can we fundamentally change the way our operations work based on these things that you can do this week that you couldn't do last week? And that I don't see how any old companies really compete other than the real big guys that are being sensible about it and have the money to throw at it. Like all this fat in the middle. I'm like, what do you guys do?
Well, having worked in a couple of
the
those,
S&P 499,
it's change management processes. It's committees to go through. And
thank God it's the death of the consultant.
But in that time when all that's happened, the whole thing that they were talking about has moved on.
It's just you passed it. You've this time last year, we were working on like one big release over a quarter. We're now working on 8 equivalent releases this quarter. So like very simply, it's enabled us to do 8 times the amount of work.
That's insane.
That is insane.
So thanks very much, Ben, for coming in. Really interesting chat. Wide ranging, loads of different things we covered there. And if people want to find you, where are they best suited to do
that? Twitter, LinkedIn. We're just alchemy.org is the website, and then if you search for Alchemy, you'll find us wherever you need us.
Perfect. Spend some time looking at it because it's very interesting.
Cheers.